Friends, this is a short talk on the subject of rentals in Kerala. As you may know, like in other states, we in Kerala also have a rent control law in place. I'm Advocate Faisal. Basically, there are two types of tenancies. One is contractual and the other statutory tenant. Contractual tenant could be for a period of less than 1 year or more than 1 year. Where it is more than 1 year, it will have to be compulsorily registered. Statutory tenancy is mostly seen throughout Kerala. That is a case in which the agreement, rental agreement, is for a period of 11 months and the tenant continues to stay on in the rental premises with the consent of the landlord, with the terms of agreement being in force even after the expiry of the period of 11 months. Now, the agreement is usually renewed when the rent is enhanced 2 or 3 years down the line. Now we shall examine the rights of tenant. Now, the landlord cannot evict a tenant unless the conditions provided in the rent control law comes into play. Now, supposing the landlord requires the rented premises for his own use, of one of his dependents requires it, then he could approach the rent control court and have the tenant evicted, provided his cause is genuine and it is proved before the court. The landlord cannot withhold or obstruct the basic amenities like electricity or water supply to the tenant according to his whim. In case he does so, the tenant can approach the rent control court to have his remedy. Again, the landlord cannot increase his rent according to his whim. In that case also, the tenant can always approach the rent control court to have his grievance redressed. The tenant will be well served if he could keep a clean slate, so to say, vis-a-vis the arrears of rent. In case the landlord doesn't or refuses to receive the rent, he can be served with a notice asking him to provide the bank account so that the rent can be remitted into his bank. If he is not agreeable to that, the rent can be sent to his address through postal order. If he still refuses to receive that too, the tenant can approach the rent control court and have the rent deposited there until the dispute between the parties are peaceably resolved. Now we shall examine the rights of landlord. The landlord, like I said before, can get the tenant evicted if he bona fide requires the rented premises for his own use or any of his dependents wants it. Supposing the tenant sublets the premises without the consent of the landlord, again the landlord does have a cause of action to approach the rent control code to have the tenant evicted. The same goes as far as improvements or alterations in the rented premises made by the tenant without the consent of landlord. Now, supposing the tenancy is a contractual one, the landlord will obviously have to sit out the period of contract before he can have the premises evicted. Friends, if you had enjoyed the video, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button below to enjoy more videos down the line.